Introducing monster container ship One Columba. This massive vessel transports vital supplies between ports in Europe, Asia, and South America.
Stop the bow, stop the bow.
But in order to stay on schedule, the crew must prepare for the unpredictable.
Okay, move.
By fighting time, dangerous global waterways, and the ship itself.
We have a technical problem. It doesn't move anymore.
This is Ocean Network Express's One Columba. At over 1,190 feet long and more than 165 feet wide, she's one of a new class of super-sized high-tech container ships. Today, led by a skilled crew, the One Columba is making an epic 23,000-mile voyage, transporting precious cargo halfway around the world. Her enormous hull, when fully loaded, can hold up to 14,000 containers. The ship has a super powerful but super compact engine, which provides more room for container storage. A towering bridge in the middle of the ship allows the captain to see over the thousands of containers, even when fully loaded. This massive carrier is capable of sailing 50,000 miles at a speed of 23 knots without stopping to refuel. Thousands of containers carry all different types of goods worth millions of dollars. And this ship also transports vital medical supplies and refrigerated cargo, so any delay could put perishable items at risk. But time delays don't just endanger the cargo on board. It also affects the containers waiting to be picked up. At each port, thousands of new containers are loaded onto the ship for transport to another harbor. Meanwhile, hundreds of trucks are waiting to haul away goods from the ship. Every hour the vessel is delayed, the crew is at risk of incurring a large financial loss. Currently, the crew is 2 weeks into a 2-month epic global voyage. Unfortunately, delays at a previous port caused the ship to fall 3 days behind schedule, so the crew will need to maintain their focus to get back on track. But making up time won't be easy as the crew sails through the dangerous North Sea winter waters. First, the crew must reach Antwerp in Belgium, then get to Hamburg in Germany, Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and finally Southampton in the UK, before heading back into calmer waters. It's 9 a.m. The ship is approaching the Belgian port of Antwerp to load and offload containers and take on board a special shipment, a super-sized engine weighing over 100,000 pounds. This mammoth engine will take up as much space as 50 regular-sized containers. In charge of this monster ship is Captain Anil Khanna.
On the port side, keep the clearances from the ship.
He's spent over 2 decades at sea, commanding some of the world's biggest vessels. Today, Captain Khanna's first challenge is navigating through the Scheldt estuary, a 50-mile channel that connects Antwerp to the North Sea.
There are a lot of sharp bends, almost 180-degree bends. When we take a sharp turn, then the speed of the vessel drops because of the resistance of the water. So we need to increase the RPM to be able to maintain the speed.
Thanks to ongoing dredging maintenance, large container vessels up to 50 feet deep can now travel across the Scheldt. But during low tide, some parts of the waterway are more shallow than others, so safe passage is not guaranteed. If One Columba were to run aground, it could cause millions of dollars worth of damage and costly financial losses for any undelivered cargo. To prepare for the unpredictable, Captain Khanna enlists local pilot Herman Cronin to help navigate the ship through these unknown waters.
It's very winding, It's really a snake, so you make these curves 2 or 3 times. You have a lot of barges interfering into the fairway. So we have wind, we have fog, we have all kinds of weather conditions involved as well. 175.
Antwerp is the second busiest port in Europe. Each year, handling over 14,000 ships and 55,000 barges. With so much ship traffic, it'll be a difficult maneuver. To dock at Antwerp, the ship needs to be rotated 180 degrees. But the dredged channel is nearly half a mile wide.
So we have to swing the vessel 180 degrees with the head out, and that will block the river because we are 364 meters in length. Your space for error is very, very small.
All right. She will start pulling now. Just keep clear. The crew should be safe. The tug will be pulling very hard now.
One wrong move, and the vessel could get stuck in the channel or collide with the quay. Halfway through the maneuver, the hull comes within just a few feet of the dock.
Stop the bow.
We cleared by about 15 meters forward clearance.
Now the tugs need to slowly push one Columba onto her berth, parallel to the cranes. But her size poses another problem. Since the ship is so big, pilot Herman can't see the quayside from the center console.
Give it to me on the port and on the starboard side.
Luckily, one Columba is specially designed for this type of situation. The ship has an extra long bridge that stretches across the width of the boat to help pilots see from each side. Each end has a set of instruments that control the main engine and bow thrusters, complete with a mini ship's wheel.
Captain, we let go. The tugboat is going to push in the side.
Strong tidal currents are pushing the ship into the quay. Captain Kana has taken control of the engine and bow thrusters. Pilot Herman is trying to coordinate the powerful supporting tugs.
Okay.
Stop the engine.
Stop it. I have to keep it full port.
Dead slow ahead.
Let's go ahead. You control the tug, I'm controlling the thruster.
So please don't do anything with the... Let's talk to each other, because otherwise you do different things from me and we are not able to bring the stern in.
Let's go ahead, it's moving.
No. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'll give thruster to starboard. Thruster half to starboard is better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finally, after 2 tense hours, the one Columba is moored to the dock.
It was a tough maneuver. A little delay, but that's because you have to do things safely. So yeah, safety costs time.
Without a moment to spare, the lifting cranes get right to work. Chief Officer Ayush Gangrade is overseeing loading operations.
I'm doing a check on dangerous cargo or the hazardous containers.
First on his checklist is to assess the ship's most precious cargo containers, the refrigerator or reefer units. These containers carry perishable food and temperature-controlled medical supplies. So it's imperative that the reefers are working properly.
Over here, for example, the set temperature is minus 18 degrees Celsius and the unit is maintaining minus 17.6. So it is within the range and you can see the reefer smiling right now. It's quite funny, but it's very easier to read.
As second in command, Ayush must ensure the ship and cargo are safe. But on this voyage, there's more than that at stake for Ayush.
My wedding is planned on 24th of June and everything is set. The venue is booked, the guests have been called for, but the ship is already delayed. And our problem is my wedding is on 24th and I am just reaching Singapore port on 20th of June. Each and every delay, my heartbeat goes like pum, 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 pum.
The ship is already 3 days behind schedule, so delays are not an option. But 30 minutes into loading, a vital piece of equipment unexpectedly breaks down.
Yeah, now we have a technical problem. It doesn't move anymore.
It's 7 p.m. Monster vessel 1 Columba has just arrived into port at Antwerp, ready to load 1,200 containers onto the ship. But earlier challenges at sea have caused the ship to be delayed by 3 days, so the pressure is on for the crew to load the ship as quickly as possible. Crane driver Tom van de Wiele is starting his shift. For Tom, the work is difficult, but personally fulfilling.
I am afraid of heights. So this job, it's to get me over it, I don't know. But I like it. When it's good weather, it's just amazing.
Driving a crane this massive is not an easy task. Tom operates his crane from a cabin located more than 150 feet above the ground. By working at this height, Tom is exposed to all the elements. But at this vantage point, he can see every container that needs to be loaded onto the ship.
Normally we do about 300 containers a person with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cranes. It's 1,200 containers we move this shift.
Measuring 455 feet long, the cranes are fast and powerful. To perform a lift, Tom drives the crane across the full extent of 1 Columba's hull. Below, the crane's mighty spreaders lock onto 1 or 2 containers at a time. Once the containers are secured, they are lifted and placed onto the ship.
In some ways it's like Tetris you're playing or a video game, yeah. The most difficult part is to keep focused, because when you move your eyes for 5 seconds, there could be something catastrophic. I think that's the hardest part.
Tom is lifting an average of almost 1 container a minute. But 30 minutes into his shift, he notices something has gone wrong.
Yeah, now we have a technical problem. It doesn't move anymore.
A broken crane could seriously delay the loading process. And at this point, any additional setback could cost thousands of dollars of lost revenue. 1 Columba is one of over 5,000 container ships in operation that form a vast global trade network. These massive vessels not only keep their local economies lucrative, but they connect countries, markets, and businesses worldwide, allowing each to buy and sell goods at an incredibly fast rate. But none of this would be possible without one ingenious invention: the shipping container. Until the 1950s, cargo was transported in bags, barrels, and crates. It took weeks to load a ship by hand, making international trade too expensive and impractical for many businesses. Then, in 1956, transport entrepreneur Malcolm McLean had an idea that would change the industry forever. He proposed that an old World War II oil tanker be converted into a shipping vessel, carrying 58 containers from Newark, New Jersey to Houston, Texas. By eliminating the need for repeated handling of individual pieces of cargo, larger shipments could be transported from one location to the next faster than ever before. This innovative idea not only maximized the use of space on ships, but also decreased the cost of freight transportation. By 1968, the size of containers became standardized. This allowed containers to travel on any sized truck, train, or ship, transforming how people imported and exported products from one country to another. Now, manufacturers needed a reliable waterway to transport their goods globally. The renowned Panama Canal was the answer. This man-made canal that served as the gateway between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans offered shippers an inexpensive way to transport goods in a short period of time. By 2016, the canal was widened to accommodate larger container ships. Among them was the one Columba. Back in Antwerp, the broken crane is costing the crew valuable time and money.
It doesn't move anymore.
Engineers are furiously trying to find the problem. Tom thinks he knows what's wrong. The V-shaped arms at the front of the spreader may have been knocked out of alignment and are no longer responding to his controls.
I don't know if you can see the two V's, they were a little bit open. So when I go in a shaft, they could catch something and damage the containers.
Engineers try manually opening the V-shaped arms. And they're in luck. This resets the device, so Tom can open and close them from his cab.
Now it's fixed, yeah. Now we can get back to it.
The pressure is on for Tom and the rest of the operators as they work through the night to make up the time from the delay. By early morning, all containers are on board.
The weather wasn't optimal, there was a little wind, but no damages. The one Columba is loaded and she's ready to go.
Eager to avoid any further delays, the crew prepares the vessel for departure. Chief Officer Ayush Gangrade checks that the containers are properly secured. To maximize space, containers are stacked on top of each other. Each stack consists of 9 containers of smaller sizes and weight distributions. But if a stack falls over, there could be catastrophic consequences. In the early days of 2019, along the same route one Columba is currently traveling on, Coast Guards had to rescue the crew of a container ship, the MSC Zoe, after her cargo stacks collapsed, sending 345 boxes across the ocean. For Ayush, the recent disaster is a reminder to check every lock thoroughly to ensure each container is properly secured.
All the boxes which are loaded on deck are held by the base locks in position. So this is a locked position and this is an unlocked position. So if this is not locked properly, then the entire stack get loosened up because nothing is holding her back, right? So the base lock can come off if the weather is not good, if vessel is rolling too much. These boxes could jump off.
And it's not just the base locks that need to be safeguarded. Each container must be fixed to the one above it using a steel twist lock.
The other twist locks are automatic. They fit inside the bottom container and the top container.
The bottom 3 containers are strapped to the ship using steel lashings. These heavy metal rods hook to the corners of the container, keeping the stacked container towers from falling over. Each is tightened by twisting a turnbuckle.
The lashing pattern on the ship is cross-lashing on each of the containers. So these lashing bars are adjustable type. I can hook over here, over here. The twist locks are in place, so it's good to go.
But there's still one more item to take aboard, and it's a monster. A gigantic engine exceeding 125,000 pounds. So big it will occupy as much space as 50 standard-sized containers. Overseeing the delivery is Operational Supervisor Peter Hauben.
The piece is not possible to fit inside a container. It is a very sensitive piece, so it has to be very secure.
The jumbo-sized cargo is worth millions of dollars, but its enormous price tag isn't the only concern.
It weighs 57 tons, and that's a bit more than the normal weight the crane can handle. If you take a crane that cannot hold that much amount of tonnage, the thing comes crashing down.
It's 7 a.m. at the port of Antwerp. Workers have just finished loading the last regular-sized container onto the one Columba. After hours of heavy lifting, the crew has just one more container to lift. A monster engine weighing over 125,000 pounds. To lift this massive container, the crew uses a 165-foot tall crane that can lift slightly over 175,000 pounds. But lifting something this size is a risk. If the crane's cables are too weak, the container could come crashing to the ground, injuring the workers.
So we have to put on special cables for the weight. They have attached a thing we call a klephaken to the crane, a strong chain of 15 tons. They take the cable, so it just stays like one piece until it is landed inside the hole.
Once the reinforced cables are double-checked, the crane makes the lift.
The danger is that the cargo starts moving around and then it can hit the vessel.
As the precious cargo hangs in the balance, all the lifting team can do is pray for a successful result. One last push, and touchdown. The engine has landed. Now fully loaded with containers of valuable cargo and reefers with perishable items, one Columba's crew prepares for departure. Ayush and his team attach tow lines to the tugs to guide the vessel out to sea. But as the crew reels in the mooring ropes that shackle the ship to the dock, they discover a problem.
Okay, stop, stop.
The enormous winches that are able to hold up to 66,000 pounds each keep getting jammed.
More, okay. Do from here only, bosun. Yes, sir, they got stuck on the winch. We are trying to remove it, sir. This is a tidal port, and the tide is of about 4.5 to 5 meters. So what happens is the mooring ropes are under so much of strain, they get stuck like this. Slack more and engage that one also. Engage.
The falling tide has lowered the ship, pulling the ropes so tight that they're stuck in the winches. Until they're unknotted, the ship can't leave port.
Bridge, forward, tug line, made fast. Bosan, wait. Arya more.
Ayush has an idea. If they reverse the winches, it may loosen the ropes, causing the knots to release. But each rope weighs over 1,000 pounds, so one wrong move could cause catastrophic damage.
Okay, move. Steve, clear of the rope. Okay, take a turn. Yeah. Oh, one more, take one more. We have high currents over here. Tugboat was already taking some weight on her line and trying to pull the bow off. In spite of us slacking the ropes over here, the lines got stuck. They take a lot of weight, so that is why we need to stay cautious. Bosun, help them, help.
The crew tries to loosen the ropes again.
The tugboat is already pulling.
And this time, it's a success. Finally, the ropes are unknotted. One Columba can now leave Antwerp and make the 490-mile journey to her next port of call in Hamburg, Germany. To make up for lost time, Captain Kana fires up the engines to full speed at 23 knots and sails through the night. 5:30 a.m. the next morning. The one Columba is back on schedule and is approaching the port of Hamburg. But in order to get into Germany's largest port, the ship will have to travel under a bridge, which is lower than the ship itself.
We will be entering the harbor limits of Hamburg. This structure which is showing is the bridge. So we need to pass under the bridge which has a restriction of height.
The bridge stands 165 feet above sea level, and fully loaded, the one Columba sits 170 feet above the water. It's an impossible maneuver. But at this point, there's no turning back.
Preparing up for passage under the bridge right now. It makes all of us very nervous because it's a very narrow clearance.
Monster container vessel 1 Columba is approaching her next stop in Hamburg, Germany. But in order to get into port, she'll have to travel under a massive cable-stay bridge that's lower than the height of the fully loaded ship. Captain Kana must expertly judge the tide and figure out how to shrink the height of the ship.
I have to lower my 6 antennas, go clear of the bridge.
To accomplish this tricky maneuver, Captain Kana instructs the crew to take down the 2 light posts, 3 radio antennas, and the radar, which will reduce the ship's height by nearly 15 feet. But even though the crew can control the height of the ship, they can't control the water. Tidal waters rise and fall in ways that are not always predictable. At this point, any miscalculation could cause catastrophic damage.
Preparing up for passage under the bridge right now. It makes all of us very nervous because it's a very narrow clearance.
In these freezing temperatures, it's a race against time as the crew disconnects the stud bolts and steel lashings that hold the antennas in place.
We have about an hour and 15 minutes to be ready for the transit under the bridge. We have got a big hydraulic jack, and we'll be using that to lower a very heavy antenna, which is also known as the Christmas lights, because it has got many red, green, multicolored lights.
After 45 minutes, the crew finishes lowering the 16-foot-high, 3,300-pound light posts and antennas.
We'll just lash it up on the base, and we are good to go.
But as the sun comes up and the mammoth vessel approaches the bridge, Captain Kana realizes he's run into another roadblock.
We have lowered 6 antennas already. So normally should have passed with 2 meters. But now as pilot tells me that tide is higher.
High tide could lift 1 Columba, so she collides with the bridge, causing damage to both ship and the overpass. As the bridge looms ahead, the crew takes a deep breath. It's down to Captain Kana's calculations.
Wow, that's it. That's it. Wow, really close, really close. That's good. Absolutely, very nice.
Now that the 1 Columba has successfully cleared the bridge, the crew prepare to dock in Hamburg. But they only have 48 hours to drop off and reload 4,200 containers, almost a third of the ship's capacity. It's a nearly impossible job. Halfway through loading, they run into a problem.
Chief Officer, please come in, sir. Sir, we have repair problems here in Bay 66.
Deep in the cargo bay, electrical engineer Leonard Beleo has discovered a fault with one of the refrigerator units.
Okay.
We have alarm, sir.
Yeah, can you get me the menu?
The temperature inside the unit needs to remain cool at 50 degrees, but now it's currently over 80 degrees.
And we have some sensitive cargo inside, and it does not look good. So I guess I'll probably call for shore help right away.
Refrigerated reefers contain temperature-sensitive perishables. Failure to cool these products at the right temperature is not an option. Subsequently, for Ayush, things go from bad to worse.
Send them for a recheck once we start loading.
In addition to its expected cargo, the ship is scheduled to transport an extra 134 containers. With so much weight on the ship in such shallow waters, the extra load will make the ship sit too low in the water. In shipping terms, this type of weight distribution is known as the draft.
So according to our plan of departure, we are restricted to have our draft, that is the sinkage of vessel underwater, to about 13 meters. But the cargo planning which we have received from the shore terminal, it reflects the drafts of 13.15 to 13.20, which is not acceptable as we cannot depart like this.
Due to the extra weight, some of the cargo can't be loaded on board. But this itself causes another problem. It's not safe for the ship to operate with unbalanced cargo, especially with a load this big. With the clock ticking, the crew is desperate to figure out a solution. For Ayush, the delay not only has financial consequences, but personal ones.
The ship is already delayed. And our problem is, my wedding is on 24th. The day I told her, she was so furious. And she was like, what is happening with the ship? Do you want me to run away with somebody else?
One Columba is docked at the port in Hamburg, Germany. After multiple delays and container breakdowns, the crew is desperately trying to make up for lost time. Up on the bridge, Captain Kana is trying to save the perishable cargo inside the broken freezer unit from spoiling.
So you will gonna repair the reefer and bring it back here again. All right, all right.
The broken reefer container can only be fixed on land, and the container is at the bottom of a large stack.
My only concern is 47 containers to discharge and reload. This may affect my schedule also, departure Hamburg.
The maintenance team has less than 24 hours before departure to repair the broken container, so the entire crew is feeling the heat.
We have all decided to discharge this container ashore, make the repairs, and we will load it back.
Ayush is concerned. Rebalancing the cargo will take time they don't have.
We will have to probably shift some cargo from aft part of the ship to the forward to make her even keel, that is, she's equally sunk from forward and aft. And second point is, if required, we'll cancel some cargo so that she comes up a little bit, lightens up, and we can sail out at 13 meters of draft.
Once the broken container is lifted off of the ship and sent out for repair, the team gets to work restacking the boxes across the boat to evenly distribute the load. 24 hours later, and the faulty refrigerated unit has been fixed and loaded back into the cargo bay. Electrical engineer Leonard Baleo checks that it's working.
Now, okay, the temperature is the same as the set point now. 10 degrees, the same as the set point. Temperature is okay.
Now that the reefer container is back up and running, Ayush can finish redistributing the new cargo and complete the loading operations. Finally, after a tense 24 hours, One Columba departs the port of Hamburg and heads to her next destination in Rotterdam. 2 a.m. the next day, One Columba is approaching Rotterdam. But with unpleasant weather ahead, the pressure is on for Captain Kana.
My ship arrived fully loaded here, stacks up to 9 tier high on the deck. With strong wind conditions, I'm being pushed by the wind.
Gale force winds are battering the bow. To dock the ship, Captain Kana calls for assistance. Tugboat captain Dennis Coy is driving one of 4 vessels that's on its way to help bring One Columba in.
The weather conditions is a very strong wind. The pilot, yeah, he's kind of scared it goes wrong because the wind is coming inside the harbor. It's extremely dangerous.
The tugs have to get within touching distance to connect to the ship.
We're going to approach her on the bow for connection. The dangerous part of the connection is we get sucked to the vessel, turn around and hit by the vessel. Then we have also a very big chance of capsizing.
Dennis positions his tug below one Columba's enormous hull. It's a risky maneuver, but it'll hopefully put his tug close enough to catch the guide rope. With the line secured, the tug springs into action. Each tug has two massive engines generating 5,000 horsepower. But one Columba weighs nearly 400 million pounds. Even with 4 tugs working at the same time, it's a challenge to land her safely. And in winds this strong, one Columba's height poses another problem. The stacks of containers on board can act like a sail, which could pull the ship off course.
If the wind will catch her and we cannot hold it, then she's gonna crash and probably will get a hole inside the hull, and this is what we don't want.
In Rotterdam, 4 local tugboats are furiously trying to maneuver monster container vessel one Columba into port.
Dead slow ahead, wheel hard port.
As the ship battles the wind, Captain Kana instructs the crew to go full throttle on the bow thrusters to force the ship to turn.
Thruster full to port.
As the ship swings around, the tugs fight to keep her from crashing into the dock. Dennis disconnects from one Columba's bow, moving to her side to push the vessel around.
Deurbel, stop.
Eventually, the crew aligns one Columba to the quay, without a moment to spare. As the sun rises, the crew has just 48 hours to unload 3,500 containers and load another 1,500 before the ship is scheduled to depart. Meanwhile, the engineering team uses the time docked at port for some critical maintenance, work that can only be done while the ship is stationary. Overseeing the job is first engineer Amit Kumar.
I like it as a whole, especially the maintenance part, which is very challenging because when it comes, it takes full day, full team. My team is perfect.
Over 40 feet tall by 59 feet long, one Columba's giant 2-stroke diesel engine has 9 cylinders with 3 turbochargers that can power the ship up to 57,000 horsepower. That type of power is equivalent to nearly 70 Formula One car engines. Amit and his team are preparing for one of their most dangerous tests, a crankshaft case inspection. But unlike fixing a car engine, the team must climb completely inside the engine to perform the mechanical testing.
Chamber of the engine is very slippery because it is full of lube oil. So we have to be careful on that part.
The hollow chamber is where the 12-foot-high pistons attach to the 59-foot-long crankshaft. The pistons move up and down as the crankshaft converts this vertical energy into rotating movement to turn the propeller. But the motor will only run smoothly if the components are perfectly aligned. If they aren't, they'll grind each other apart.
I have to check the presence of any metal particles over there. So it is very slippery.
Evidence of metal particles is a warning sign that parts are not aligned properly.
This is our sump for the main engine. It looks quite nice. Now I will check the main bearing for any wear down or any presence of white metal particles. So I just put my hand to see if there has been some metal deposit, any wear down of the bearing. It looks very nice to me. There is no metal particles, and also the top portion of the crankcase looks quite nice to me. The crosshead is in good shape. Connecting rod looks nice.
To check the back of the device, the shaft must be rotated. But this means powering up the engine while Amit is inside.
Okay, stop. No metal presses, nothing. So this one is also in good shape, our bottom end bearing as well as our main bearing. They are in good shape.
Once every inch of the machine is inspected,
All in good condition.
Amit gives the all clear that the engines are in top working order.
Everything seems perfect. Not an issue. We can easily go anywhere in the world.
Up on the bridge, Captain Khanna receives some good news. The crew has successfully completed reloading, and all the new cargo containers are now safely on board. One Columba can leave Rotterdam and travel to England before heading back to Asia through the Suez Canal.
Okay, everything here? Yes. PT, engines, all here. Good.
It's been a difficult voyage, but the crew and ship have handled every challenge like pros.
It has been tough, but Columba has really a great show. No injury, no damage. The Columba has done as per all the requirements which a vessel must do.
As the ship heads further into the ocean, Captain Khanna is able to make up for the lost time. One Columba will complete another successful global round trip, and Ayush will make it back home in time to marry the woman of his dreams.